And everybody, welcome to the. Oh, hold on just a second here. How about this? Oh, give me a second.
Yep.
Sometimes this does this whenever I do not reset my computer, and so I have to kind of make some little bit of adjustments, but we got it all taken care of. So, everybody, welcome Hog Nation to the Tuesday, July 8th edition of the Arkansas Diamond Report. I'm Jason Patterson. We got Dudley Dawson here. Dudley, how was your holiday week off?
It was good. We did the staycation, except going to Little Rock for a little R&R down there, but it was good. Of course, there were plenty of commitments that usually happens when I take any time off. So, jumped on and got those in. Arkansas is up to 8 now, and looking to add a couple more, I think, a couple more pitchers. So we'll see how that plays itself out. You can no longer jump in the portal, but if you're in the portal, you can still make your decision at any point you want to.
For baseball, when does that open back up where they can officially come back or go into another school or go into the portal then to another school?
I guess that would be next fall.
Gotcha. Okay.
Unless your coach gets fired, and anybody that gets fired at this point is what they're doing anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Man. So talk a little bit about the kids that David was able to pluck out of the portal over the last 7 or so days.
Well, I think the last time we were on here, you'd already gotten a couple, and Jackson Wells from I still say ULR, but it's Little Rock, and Evan McIlvain from Vanderbilt. Those were the two pitchers that they had landed. So before we were here last time, they added Jackson Kirshner from Little Rock Christian, who was at Oklahoma last year, pitched pretty well in limited innings over there, pitched better down the stretch than he did during the early part of the season. As a lot of kids do when they're freshmen. Dylan Grego is a shortstop from Ball State, third team All-American last year. Someone who is looked upon, I guess, as the heir apparent to Villalobos. Now Carson Brumbaugh, who is an outstanding high school kid that they have from Edmond over in Oklahoma, he will also have the opportunity to play shortstop right away. He's played some outfield as well, but the odds are him getting drafted pretty high and taking the money seem pretty good. Even though he's real good friends with Carson Wiggins, and they've talked about wanting to play together in college. I wanted to play together in college with a lot of people, but money would have, money would have, traded. I would have traded that in. So we'll see how that plays itself out. So they also got Texas Tech infielder Dylan Pompey. TJ Pompey, excuse me, 6'4" kid, 15 home runs in his 2 years at Texas Tech. He's played every position except pitcher and catcher, and so has the opportunity to be real versatile for him. Brent Irondale signs, which is certainly a possibility. He could be the guy there. So they've added him in. Also, got the Southland Conference's best hitter in Damian Ruiz, who hit 388 last year, blessed with a lot of speed. Kind of a Justin Thomas type, but a little taller. I think 6'1", 190. If he certainly would be someone that you would think would have the opportunity to come in and be a starter right away. I mean, I'm sure that's what their plan is. Also, Zach Owens from Zach Stewart, excuse me, from Missouri State, who has hit 2 home runs at Baum Walker Stadium during his career with the Missouri State. Was here last year, hit a home run in that wild 13-12 come from behind win that they had here. And you've also added another versatile player that can play pretty much all over the diamond, Marshall's Maki Nua, which sounds Hawaiian, but it's not. He was born in Mechanicsville, Pennsylvania, but played at Marshall last year, played at New Orleans before that. Another versatile guy that they've added in. So that's the guys they've got so far. They're really setting out. Joy Volchek is the pitcher from Stanford that jumped in the transfer portal. He's someone that has been viewed as a top 15 pick in the 2026 year draft. His record doesn't look that great, and
Hmm.
his ERA was a little high, but he has a variety of pitches and looks like he may end up at an SEC school. I think he's looking for a little change of pace and maybe Matt Hobbs or Wes Johnson or Jay Johnson, might be the help him get to where he needs to be.
Hmm.
And as I said, he's had 2 years of eligibility left, but he's viewed as a top 2026 pick. And then, of course, we will know a lot more as the weekend goes along with the Major League Baseball draft, which is getting ready to happen at the end of this week.
Yeah, and I think that some Hog fans are just kind of really holding their breath to see exactly where some of these kids coming out of high school are going to fall because, as you well know as I do, that if they do end up falling out of the first, second round, third round, maybe there's a chance that they may just come here instead.
Yeah, and a lot of them have agents and lawyers and all that, and this thing's kind of
Yeah.
worked out ahead of time. The clubs know how much they want, and they some of them won't get drafted because they want too much. Carson Brumball, that may be a case there. Excuse me. I'm sure he has a set figure, and will they take a chance? Now there are a lot of kids that have made a decision. Gabe Gackel being one of them that was drafted in the 10th round by Cincinnati, or 20th round by Cincinnati. Decided to come on to school with Arkansas, and obviously will probably be their Friday night guy again. But it's an interesting thing. I'm looking forward to it. The I'm sure it'll be a busy week between that and the Futures game, which Jackson Wiggins is pitching in, and also Slade Caldwell from Valley View. I think someone obviously Arkansas would have liked to have had, who got drafted so high last year. He's involved in that as well, and should be a fun time this weekend outside of the rain that we're apparently going to get.
Yeah, that's the truth. And also want to say real quick too, thoughts and prayers to go out to the folks down in South Texas
Mhm.
with all the floods that have happened. With if I do believe, I think it's like the last count that I'd heard was either like 131 or 141 that are still missing, and the death toll does keep going up.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. How that thing has worked itself out, and just as you said, just thinking about everybody and just heat, caution. I guess the that seems like there's a lot of culpability to go around there, and I'm sure they'll get to it.
Yep. So real quick, I know that you talked about there's a possibility of having uh, a replacement for Villoy coming in from the transfer portal. We had talked about Nolan Souza maybe going to second or going to short, and Cam staying at second. Is there a possibility where there's a situation where Nolan may just go to first?
Could be, or Cam could go back to first. I mean, there's a lot of different options they're going to have with that versatility. I think the previous year's portal recruiting was to get more athletic, to get more in the gaps and stuff like that, to be able to cover the gaps on defense as well. This
Mhm.
year, I think versatility is a key because they have some good players, but they want to have a lot of different options. And so they've put themselves in position in pretty good place there. Now they just wait and see who's going. I think you're best if you're a coach or if you're a fan to expect that everybody you saw this year that's draft eligible goes. Uh, Reese Robinette probably didn't play enough, but
Mhm.
in the time that he did play, had some big home runs. Somebody may take a chance there, but everybody else that is draft eligible, I think will, especially with the publicity that they got over the toward tail end of the season, will get an opportunity to make that choice, and they'll just have to decide. It used to be if how much money you were getting from the pros. Now it'll be how much money you're getting from the pros versus your NIL.
Yeah, I really feel like that could be a determining factor with some of these guys that you thought might be gone that might come back. I mean, at this point, I think Dave has a pretty good idea of the kids that are going to get drafted, regardless if it's on his team or coming out of high school. I think that that's why you're also seeing him not jumping the gun on so many players this week, at least through the portal, and saying, "Hey, you know what? Let's bring him in."
Yeah, also you only got 34 spots this year. You can't
Yep,
have 50 in here as they
exactly.
have the previous falls. And so some of these kids that didn't play last year, they were headed out of here anyway. I mean, a lot of them didn't even make the trip to, obviously to Omaha
Hmm.
because they had been redshirted and
Yeah.
were out of the way. Yeah, I think there's 12 current Razorbacks and one recruit that are commit that are playing summer league ball right now. I'm going to have a lot of stuff on that starting out this later this week.
With the scholarship numbers being limited to 34, is that kind of the reason why Dave is using the Swiss, like I guess the utility approach, as far as you got guys, 1 through 7 or 1 through 8 in your lineup that can pretty much play anywhere?
Yeah, I think so. And obviously, he's got a couple of guys that he expects to be back from injury and be back full strength. And I think he's got some freshmen there that he believes can come in and play. But you have to depend on the older guys these days because that's what everybody else is doing through the portal and all that. I've always said, and it's a saying that everybody puts out there a lot, that Dave Van Horn is playing chess right now. We're all looking at it and playing checkers.
Yep. I really
Which I was
feel
pretty good
like,
at, by the way.
oh,
So, which I was pretty good at back then, by the way. Much better at checkers than I was at chess.
man, you get me a king, I'll tear it up. Give me a king and I'll tear it up, man. No, also another thing that I have kind of noticed last couple years that has started to tail off a little bit towards the end of the season. We saw that the Razorback batting, the bats kind of cooled down once they got to Omaha. If there's some way that Dave can keep those bats, him and Nate Thompson can keep those bats going into Omaha and keeping them hot, I think that that's where it's going to give him the best chance to get a national championship. Until then, I mean, you look at it, for instance, Coastal Carolina came in with a 25-game win streak. And then you come in with LSU. They weren't as hot, but then when they hit the supers with West Virginia, it seems like they got it. Basically, they were playing against a team with BP, and it just kind of propelled them to the national championship.
Yeah, and I think that Arkansas caught a bad break by being in the same bracket, I guess that it
Mhm.
was with LSU, and you facing, obviously either a no, 1-1 or a top five draft pick that was pitching maybe the best he could all year. Cade Anderson, that
Mhm.
was tough, to go up against that, and then LSU basically small balls them in that first inning. And obviously, Zach Root, who's going to get drafted probably in the second round,
Mhm.
uh, is someone that, it just wasn't working that day. And he got small balled, and they got the lead. And then Cade Anderson pretty much put it all down. Now, we all know what happened the second game with LSU. Uh, and I'm sure people will look back on that. But those were two pretty evenly matched teams. But in the end, LSU won 4 of 6 between the two teams and deserved to win the national championship.
Yep. 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 Well, I have got to put this up here really quick. Oh, no, hold on. There it is. So next week, SEC Media Day start Monday. You got Cam Ball, Xavier Sorey, and Taylor Green that are going to be joining Sam Pittman in Atlanta at the College Football Hall of Fame. Is there anything that you are looking for during talking season, hearing from Sam, maybe hearing from the players, as far as something that might give fans a tell a little bit about where the season might start? Not in September, October, but that first game in August.
Well, I think these days that, and I don't know how much the coaches, so the 16 coaches will talk about it, but obviously it's an arms race with money through the NIL.
Mhm.
I'm sure that Lane Kiffin will get up and talk about a lot of the former Arkansas kids who he has now.
Obviously.
There's a lot of trading players inside the SEC now. As far as Coach Pittman, though, I mean, obviously you want to hear a little bit more about Remy Caulfield and how that's going. We've had that one press conference with him and kind of explained what he was doing. And it's still kind of a little murky there to me, but general manager sounds like a general manager, I guess.
Mhm.
But it's just a different dynamic than the one in the major leagues and in NFL and all that. So, hearing a little bit more about that, I know a lot about these kids from obviously having watched them and reported on them when they've come in as portal transfers or high school freshmen. So really, I want to hear more about as strange as it is to say this. I want to hear a little bit more about the business of football than I do the execution on the field.
That is the truth too, because one of the teams that I feel like is going to get peppered this week because of their approach is going to be Kentucky. If you guys haven't looked at the news or how the type of model that Kentucky is starting to use, is that they've turned their athletic department, the business side of it, into an LLC, and that's how they're funneling their money from what they get from the NCAA to the players. Folks may say, okay, well, that's not such a big deal. That is because now they can go out and they can buy public land, companies, different things that they can add into their NIL as far as fueling it. And I'm going to tell you what, folks, you start to look at the smaller pieces of this, it could get out of hand.
Well, the only way that Arkansas is going to get to where it wants to be, and that is at the top of the SEC, which they're certainly not at right now, especially in a 16 team league. They've had a couple of good years,
Mhm.
wouldn't say great years under Coach Sam Pittman, but it hadn't been, you've had a couple of seasons where you've ended with bowl wins. But this is all about these days. You got to play the game. You got to play it right. Obviously, there are a lot of people upset this past week with Kevin Trainer being
Mhm.
forced into early retirement or moved to the Razorback Foundation. However that's going to end up, and a lot of different cutting going on. And but here's the deal: if you're going to have to pay the players, you're going to have to cut the adults. And as sad as that is, no matter how much they've been there, somebody has to go. Now that may end up costing this athletic director his job, or he may
Mhm.
come through it with flying colors. That's pretty much how it's going to be. Every other sport is flourishing, I think, pretty much. Football not to the level that the fans want it to be, administration wants it to be, but then
Mhm.
as it goes up the chain, people have to take care of their business, be them admins or coaches.
One of the things that I have saw on boards, social media, is they're pretty irate with the fact that a lot of the athletic directors didn't take a pay cut. They did not help do their fair share as far as maybe paying or cutting some of their pay to help alleviate some of the hit that some of these athletic departments are taking. Now, don't get me wrong, some of these athletic departments are bloated. They have got a lot of interns and assistants and this, that, and the other that they've got on the payroll that they could probably cut. But whenever you talk in terms of like Kevin Trainer being let go, and then Hunter Yurachek doesn't take a pay cut, in optics, that looks awful.
Yeah, here's what I'd say about that. That certainly is a point that solidly a lot of people have brought up. I love you and Otis and Kevin and all that, but I ain't gonna give y'all any of my money.
Yeah.
I got a set. I got bills and stuff I got to pay. I don't know, the dynamics of admin pay and how all that's going on. I do think if you that you should go from the top down. You know, you should have
Mhm.
stepped out maybe. And again, I don't know enough about the dynamics, but it looks bad when and maybe Hunter did give himself a pay cut. I don't know enough about it, but I'm saying that certainly has led that in the ticket stuff, with basketball and all, it has led to some bruised feelings in a time when you didn't really need to have that.
And that's why I think that maybe the Kentucky approach is so effective because if they're able to go out, and I know for a fact that Kentucky has went out and acquired, I think, a hospital system through fundraising, and that's one of the best things that I could think of as far as if you're wanting to make money, you get into the healthcare side of it on the ownership side, so that way that money just keeps rolling in. But whenever you have that type of funneling of money coming in, you don't have to worry about some of those things. And I think that that's where why I think that Kentucky is going to get pelted with some questions at SEC Media Days. And you have a lot of folks that sit there and say, okay, why is not Arkansas not jumping on board with that? Well, right now, a lot of these athletic directors are having that wait and see approach.
Yeah, and a lot of that I hear from fans, baseball seems to be playing the game well, both on and off the field.
Mhm.
Basketball seems to be playing the game well on and off the field, and we know there's a major booster in there that helps that out. Why isn't football doing the same thing? Now, obviously, there are a ton more scholarships in football than there are in the other sports, and it's harder to do. But it looks like if you have success in all these other sports, you should be able to do that too. And again, I want to point out, I don't know the absolute dynamics of things. I'm just giving you my perception as someone who's been around here forever, 40 years, who once took money from the university as a manager and graduate assistant and knew how things worked back then. It is a arms race. You're in a league now that's the toughest in America, no matter what sport it is, it seems like. And everybody else seems to be playing the game better than you are in when it comes to football.
Mhm.
If I'm wrong, please feel free to contact me and let me know.
And that's another thing I think some of the fans were completely baffled by. And I'm not saying that Remy Cofield's not a great hire,
He's a
but
former
like you said,
Celtic. Of course, he's a great hire.
I knew you were going to fall on that side of the fence. I knew you were. Um, but like you said, baseball, they're handling their business on and off the field. Basketball, they're handling their business on and off the field. Football seems to be the biggest problem. It's going to usually because just the sheer number between football, if you put basketball and baseball together, you still don't equal the number in football. But some of the fans are also wondering and questioning the fact that if you're bringing in a GM to basically handle mostly the football side of this, why don't you bring a football guy in that has the background with the numbers versus a basketball guy?
Well, I think that they obviously did their homework in trying to figure out what would be the best for them. This is the way they've decided to go. If it doesn't work, I'm sure they'll pivot, but that would put them behind. But this had to be a big time hire for them. And when you look at it, you look at his experience in terms of what he's done. I like that. Does it have football experience? No, but does it have business in experience? And that is what I understand that job to be, and take some of the stuff off the coaches and let them coach. But if it happens, then you better coach. You better coach well.
Yep. Well, like I said, next week you'll have SEC Media Day start on Monday. Arkansas will be going on Thursday. Taylor Green, Cam Ball, and Xavier Sorry will be joining Sam Pittman at the College Football Hall of Fame in downtown Atlanta next week.
Quite a week in Atlanta next
Yeah,
week. You also have the Major League Baseball draft there, the futures game,
All-Star game.
the All Star game, and you have Bill Goldberg coming back to wrestle on Saturday night.
I would stay around in Atlanta 2 extra days to watch Bill Goldberg. Him and
or
God,
or
Steve.
Alexa Bliss.
Real quick, we're gonna go back to baseball for just a second. Michael Kepsky's got a really good comment on it. And sorry, man, it's taking me a minute to get back to it, but it says, "Is the MLB draft going to gut Arkansas? Who will be gone for sure? And are the baseball teams cursed? Is the baseball team cursed?"
Not, I don't think it's going to get them any more than they thought it was going to. They brought in guys. I mean, they couldn't have imagined Charles Davelin would be this good and vault up the charts, but he was, and he did. You're going to have obviously Villoy and Gage Wood going in the first round. You might have Zach Root in the compensatory picks. You Ireland, Iredale, Thomas. Others are going to have the opportunity to make a decision. I think they'll lose 3 or 4 high school players as they usually do. The one good thing is it's 20 round draft, still, which it's been since the COVID year, and that has, you know, made it a little bit better. And since the last year, I mean, since the last few years, you're able to pay the money here Having 11.5 scholarships, not having NIL was a tough sell, but teams were able to do it, especially if you had a lottery in your state or you were a private school or whatever. So I don't know that's going to gut them, but if you, by saying that, because you knew who you knew know who likely you're going to lose. If Iredale comes back, if Thomas comes back, that's great for Arkansas. But do I expect them to come back? No.
And last quick question that
And as
Michael's
far as
got.
curse, I wouldn't have said no before that little ninth inning, and now I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure.
It even makes some of the most steadfast people start to scratch their head and go, "There's a possibility that this might be the thing."
Yeah, Michael's also asking about Joey Valco from Stanford. We mentioned him earlier.
Mhm.
As I said, he's a guy that the Major League see as a top 15 pick next year in 2026 draft. His ERA has been relatively high. He has a lot of pitches. He's wanting to go to a place, and from all I hear, it's going to be an SEC school in Arkansas. He is one of
Mhm.
the ones that he's really interested in. Matt Hobbs' reputation may get him here. We'll see. He would be people will be even though you've got that high ERA, people would be turning backflips if at this university if they get him. And there's a reason LSU and the others are trying to get him as well.
I would think that if he does go to a SEC school, I think that LSU would be the main rival that Arkansas is going to have to go against as far as getting his services, because it seems like Jay Johnson each year in the portal or in the off season is able to pick up that one guy that can make a difference for them at the end of the season, and then they start to really blossom towards the end of the season. And it's the same thing as it happened this last year. I mean, we had Kate Anderson pretty much from start to finish, but a couple years ago that was Paul Skeens.
Yeah, Ole Miss, the Ole Miss redshirts, All American. LSU has a lot of Libby Duns, but it's still
Mhm.
a matter of putting the money on the counter and being, Paul Skeens came here and visited, and Arkansas thought they were going to get
Yeah.
him. Then he went to LSU. LSU came up with more money, and he was overwhelmed and took that. But can you imagine Paul Skeens having been here a couple of years ago?
Gosh, only wish what would happen. That's just like there was a
That
article
dude,
from.
man, that dude is still pitching great, but I mean, he's like 1 in 10 in his last 11 starts, only won
Mhm.
one of his last 10 because Pittsburgh can't score many runs unless they're playing the Cardinals.
I'm gonna tell you what, I need to talk to Phil Elson about that one. Woof. That'd be the fighting Phil Elson.
We weren't we didn't have a live show last Thursday. I'm sure he'll bring it up this Thursday.
I'm sure he will too. I'm sure he will. Real quick too, Michael Kepsky's asking, "What's your favorite portal pickup?" Real quick.
Dylan Grego, the shortstop. I mean, third team All American kid that has done it is going to be a high round draft pick too, and it's at a need position because, like I said, I'm not sure Caution Brumball is going to come back here, and I really think you probably want to have Nolan Souza somewhere else than shortstop.
Yeah, that's one of the things too with him
That's a
coming off his
big old
shoulder.
dude. That's a big old dude that could be over there at first base. We'll see.
That's where I always thought that he would be a real good spot for because of the power at the plate from the left side. Also, on top of that, you got him. That's one of those guys. I feel like his body type is just made for first base.
Yeah, I also think picking up Damian Ruiz is a big deal. Those are the two guys. I just looking at their stats, looking at film, and those are two of the guys I expect to make the most impact. I expect Damian Ruiz, especially if Justin Thomas is not here, to be the leadoff hitter,
Mhm.
to be a guy that it does dabble in type stuff.
Yep. Really quick, did you see the article on Fox Sports where Taylor Green and Ashton Genty were going to be coming out of Boise State as a package deal, and Arkansas was really close to getting Ashton Genty?
Yes, and I know that there was some interest, but really close is dollar signs, baby.
Yeah, it's all about the Benjamins. Um, Also, before we get out of here, I got a movie recommendation. Watched it a couple of days ago. It's a newer movie. It's called The Forge. It's on Apple. It's got the kid from Top Gun. I cannot remember his name off the top of my head, and it's got Sigourney Weaver, and it's really good. I would highly recommend to see it. So that would be one of the things. If you guys got nothing to do over the next few days, The
Ha ha.
Forge, go check it out.
Ha ha.
Well, for Dudley, myself, Jason. Man, quick, Dudley, do you have any summer movie picks, really quick? Anything you guys have been watching?
Summer movies. We're probably going to go see Superman, and I understand that AMC is doing a half price on Tuesday and Wednesdays now to get people back in the theater. And Patriot and I have that 55 and older discount thing going already, so maybe we can go see a movie for like $3.
Man, that's a blast from 1989 right
But I'm
there.
I'm actually looking forward to seeing Superman if I can get her to go.
Well, hey man, while Tatum's resting, that might be the perfect time to go see it.
Sounds good.
Well, for Dudley, myself, Jason, I want to thank you guys for joining us this evening, and that is all. We will see you guys next Monday for the Arkansas Diamond Report. Y'all take care and go Hawks.